Hi Leo, welcome to a Law of Attraction reading for June 2020. It's Raina here. Oh my goodness, I've been clearing my throat left and right. I'm going to try and start over again because it was a little much. I guess I could have edited it out, but I don't know. I just figured that it would be easier to do this. So I've already laid out the cards. As you can see, I will hold up each one to represent each position. I want to give a shout out to the creator of this spread, emeraldlotus.ca, and I'm sure CA stands for Canada. Now, one thing to mention, I have gotten spreads from this site before, and I think they have a new website. I think they might call it, well, it's called Emerald Lotus Tarot. I think it's called emeraldlotustarot.com or something now. But I just want to tell what I see on my page here. And I got this from Pinterest, but they're good enough to attribute the creator of the spread. So sometimes when I'm looking for ideas, I go on a site like Pinterest. So, like I said, I have everything out here, and I wanted to talk very briefly about the first two cards that I drew, which were both wands. Fire signs like Leo and Aries and Sagittarius, which happens to be my sun sign, are connected to wands. So fire energy is wands energy, and we have to know what fire represents in order to really embrace what the message of this reading is, because fire represents expansion. If you think of fire, how it can spread so easily, it feeds upon itself. And that's one of the reasons why fire signs are considered very enthusiastic about life. It's a form of emotion that is positive, that is, passionate. So it cares, but it's not like poor me it's not subjective. It's all about caring about the bigger picture. And it's, the yang, the impersonal, or the masculine, which is the kind of like projected outwards into the world. Okay, so expansion is all about that, where it's not just about, you could even say that that type of contraction is the opposite of expansion. So it's, going within, going inwards. But this is about radiating outwards. And fire signs, and therefore wands, can represent autonomy, so freedom, being able to do as you choose, creative self-expression, and I would say too, this sense of self-empowerment, which is a different word than autonomy. Autonomy meaning freedom, self-empowerment meaning believing that you are the architect of that freedom. It's not just randomly happening. When we deal with the tarot and astrology, these concepts get muddied quite a bit, because it can easily be interpreted that life is happening to us. We have these good transits versus the bad ones, or these good cards versus the bad ones. And we want to get away from that. At least I do, because to me, it gives a false impression. So, having said that, let's see what the first position is. I'm going to tell you the vibration you are emitting. The Five of Wands is a card of competition. You see all these hands in the mix. This can mean a workplace where competition is encouraged and you are right there. Fire signs tend to be competitive. So this is not unusual for fire signs. This is not unusual fire sign behavior. The key is it healthy competition? Are you competing in a way that does not step on anybody, that doesn't try to get over on somebody so that you can get ahead? That's the important thing. If you feel like it's a dog-eat-dog environment and that you're part of it, then chances are Leo, you're going to exhibit some of the negative traits. Leos tend to be very confident, so they're not the type to just feel insecure enough to have to be underhanded and all that kind of thing. But not all Leos are balanced. Not all Leos are coming from backgrounds where they were given praise. If you're someone who's a Leo and you have a lot of the inner planets in Cancer, which is adjacent to you, and so the Mercury, Venus, and or Mars, that can lead to more, I think, insecurities sometimes. And the moon, I mean, the sky is the limit with the moon. You can have the moon in any sign. And if your moon is in Pisces or your moon is in Virgo, Cancer, certain signs, even Libra, that may be a bit either unsure of themselves, afraid of making waves, afraid of like standing out. And, you know, sometimes like Pisces is self-sacrificial, and people like that are afraid of achievement because they don't want the negative blowback. So that's the vibration that you may be emitting. And if it's on the more challenging side, then it might be very taxing to you, where you don't really enjoy how you feel. And it's very important. That's another thing about the fire element. It's very important that your heart is in what you do, because you may, if you lack that enthusiasm, it's going to, you know, naturally show up in the type of effort that you put out and just your overall feeling about everything. Okay, number 2 position, something you need to be more open to receiving. The 7 of Wands. This can be, now this is what you're supposed to be receiving. Now you see the defensive posture. Again, going back to Cancer inner planets, that can create, you know, Mars in Cancer can create a lot of defensiveness, Moon in Cancer. Not picking on Cancer, but it is the sign adjacent to you, so you can have inner planets in it. With the Moon, the emotional nature, but there's a self-protective element with Cancer. But there, you know, this can happen with Virgo. If you grew up feeling overly criticized, you may have kind of a thin skin, you may be very defensive, and it shows up. Now usually when I get this card, I'm saying you have to be more willing to stand up for yourself. But this is a very interesting wording. It's saying something I need to be more open to receiving. So it could be feedback that you are unwilling to receive that may relate to how you are treating others. And if you feel like, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, then you might reject it, don't want to hear it, and then things stay the same. The other thing that this card represents to me, not with this deck, but another deck I own. If you followed me for a while, you have probably seen this deck. It's called the Wild Unknown Tarot deck, or you've seen other readers use it. And it's kind of, it's got pen and ink drawings. I don't have it right in front of me, or I'd hold it up. But the 7 of Wands in that deck shows like a single candle flame, and it's like the eternal flame to me, which means this idea of nurturing this goal or this long-held wish that may even be from childhood, and not allowing the flame to extinguish. So to me, I don't know if that technically is how this card would be ever characterized, but that's how I see it. Because you know, you're allowed to, you know, the rules of the tarot, if you will, you're allowed to impose your own interpretations on the cards. So that's how I do it. Okay, so the third one is, what will come when I'm more open to this? So let's say that there is something connected to your willingness. And I'll grant a few of you who may be needing to defend yourself in some way, that you need to like not allow other people to intimidate you, to try to get you to think that you're not good enough. Maybe some of you are dealing with this even though you're a Leo. That's always a possibility. I mean, I typically don't see it with your sign, but again, everybody is different. And in that case, if you're more open to standing your ground, the Hierophant can reflect this sense of the hierarchy in a system. And it's like to me, it is a sign of success, of climbing, of being more of that higher up in that system. If that's something like, let's say this is a corporate environment, being higher up in that system. In another sense, this is more of a philosophical sense, because the Hierophant can relate to the religious or the spiritual, I guess you would call it. This can be this idea of self-development at a holistic level, because even though I'm doing this specifically about the law of attraction and manifestation, this, to me, it's all connected. Every part of your life. So by being able to value yourself, that's how I see the Seven of Wands, and not allow yourself to be denigrated. It's the same as if you wouldn't allow somebody else to be denigrated, somebody else to be bullied. If you treat yourself that way, the Hierophant is like you're doing God's work, because this is all part of it. A lot of systems are created using competition as the means to motivate people in a very negative way, and it never fails to amaze me how many people fall right in line with that, because they've been dealing with this their whole life. They've been dealing with when they were children, being compared to their brother or sisters, and in school, the teacher singling out certain children, the teacher's pet, and that kind of thing. And it's like a lifelong wound. And when you get off of, it's funny, what came into my mind right now is getting off of the wheel of karma. That was what came into my mind, and I thought, well, that's strange. I wasn't going to say that, but now I do say it. But basically meaning that you're not allowing that programming. It's like getting out of the matrix. Then you're able to manifest in a way that honors all parts of you. Because with the card of the Five of Wands, that competition, sometimes you get success, but it comes at a price. And then it's not, like I said, life is holistic, so it can affect other areas of your life. The fourth card is to represent the next step that you have to take. This is a leap of faith. Oh, this is very interesting as a leap of faith, because we have the Hangman. And it's funny because this person isn't doing much leaping at all. And what I see with that card is that the Hangman is a card of suspension, of being in this in-between stage where the person may feel like they can't do much of anything. They can't progress. They're just kind of stuck in this place. And sometimes that happens when they're waiting for something, maybe waiting for a promotion. Maybe that's what that Five of Wands is all about. And that's why it's the vibe that you're emitting, is that you're trying to show your stuff so that you can have what you want. But the Hangman can be about sacrifice, or I don't really like that word. Actually, surrender is the word I was looking for, which basically means that you let go of that need for something to happen in this moment. The problem a lot of times is that when somebody wants something, they just double down, they go after. I think about the steamroller effect. I call that anybody who has a fixed sign in Mars. So you may very well also, if your sun is in Leo, have Mars in Leo. And fixed signs in Mars, going after what the person wants doggedly. And even if it fails, doubling down. Just, I want this, so I'm going to try to go after it. And the problem is that it's not respecting the flow of life. It's just being like very blindly stubborn, you know what I mean? And sometimes you have to see, okay, am I meeting with resistance? Is this something that is really, is there any kind of a give here? Or am I just completely having these shut doors? Now, don't get me wrong, there have been, success stories of people who were rejected for their book manuscript 40 times before they had this bestseller. And it was, the same book, obviously. And so, they had to be a steamroller. But in those cases, that person obviously believed in themselves. And they knew that it was just a matter of the numbers. That was all in the numbers and getting enough people. I'm talking about other situations where it may not be that clear what is the proper outcome. And the person is still plugging away. And so an example would be that you want a promotion, but you really don't like your job. So it's kind of a mixed vibration there. But surrender means that you let go of the need to control the outcome. And it sounds kind of like you're throwing in the towel, but it is totally not that. It really is about humility and patience coming together. The next card is, how can you manifest even more successfully? And we have, I did pick a couple of cards that were kind of similar, the last two cards that really talk about, they have like deception and slander, this one especially, attached to it. And I always think about the workplace when I think of this card, the Five of Swords. This can be the card of an empty victory where you win the battle but you lose the war. So again, with the toxic competition, that's something to avoid. So even though, this is what this card represents, it might be avoiding these types of tendencies. But really what I see with this card is, as advice, if you will, is not to get into personal things at work. Because if you are dealing with people that may be in a covert way trying to sabotage you, you never know if they're talking to the boss and they're kind of poisoning the well. You don't want to trust the wrong person. Both of these cards, I started out with the Five of Wands, and this is another five. The number 5 is about communication. Sometimes it's really about change, and it's about, can be upheaval. It can be something that's unstable. And with swords, it can be with communication. So it can be communication that is not true, that is, deceptive, that somebody is, and maybe more than one person is trying to position themselves to get something, and they're going to use any means necessary, including smearing, a smear campaign. So you can't give people fodder. It's just, basically it's about doing your job, as long as you, excuse me, as long as you're there, and making sure that you're not trusting the wrong person or people because you're hoping for that camaraderie. You may, Leos are very warm, and sometimes fire signs are overly trusting people. I don't even like talking about saying, watch your back, be careful, because I don't like paranoia, and I like the idea of having a generous spirit. But this is something that you will have to assess on a higher level. If this is a work matter, you may realize that this kind of thing for manifestation doesn't work out, that you cannot really feel this sense of enriching your life by being in this type of environment. So that could be the ultimate lesson that you learn, is that you have to be in a supportive environment, and this might not be it for you. And then the last card is a message from my higher self, source energy spirit. And I got the 7 of Swords. This can be about going your own way. And but there's also a sense of discretion with this card, where you're not necessarily broadcasting to everyone, you guys are complete snakes, I'm out of here, I'm not doing this. Because this can also be that you decide, hey, I could do what I'm doing now for myself. I can be a consultant. I can start my own business. I don't need these people. I don't need this grief. And you don't want to, if it's in a certain industry, you want to be able to freely circulate in that industry. And some people are very vindictive. You might have a boss who tries to blackball you and tells other companies, don't hire this person, or don't, whatever. Don't partake of their services because they screwed me over and they're not good. So discretion is very important, but it does suggest going on your own. And that may, again, as I stated, the wands relate to autonomy, independence. So that may be actually a good thing. So this could be a blessing in disguise if this is true for you, Leo. So I hope that you resonated with this on some level. If you would like a life path reading, a career reading, career love reading, I have all kinds of readings that are astrology based. So I'm really looking at your natal chart, which is a different animal than this, because I'm reading for everybody here, but it's so interesting to see a person's natal chart that is specific to them. It's like a fingerprint. So check me out. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com, and the link is below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.